Alright, welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings here in Mendham. Maybe. Tired edition. Yeah, really tired. So, not much news. Just same old crap, really. Life goes on and whatever. Nice summer and all that kind of stuff. I have moments where I feel at one with the universe. But I have moments where I'm just terror. Is the sensation of just this awful doom that just sits there waiting for everybody. Waiting, to see who's next to get ground up. Yuck. So anyway, you can do a little thinking and always get yourself into trouble. So, it's just not hard to do, in terms of ruining a nice day, blah, blah, blah. So it's not really the subject. So, the subject's always kind of just the subject of this war of the cults, essentially, the idea that everybody's just part of some group, and all these groups are arguing and fighting for control of humanity's destiny. From my perspective, they all seem like imbeciles, right? I mean, it's, the religious nuts are just completely idiotic. It's a silly... It's worse than a nursery rhyme. It's so empty and meaningless mush. Then these other people who think there's some purpose in our function, and there's something redeeming in this idiotic chase game that we play over and over and over and over again. This grow a few ambitions, and then spend some decades scheming your way to something called a good feeling, or feeling good about your life or yourself or your state, and then wait to get destroyed. Anyway, and doing that over and over, and it's just how can people be that silly to think that's productive? So there's a couple of things. One idiot left a comment, on my whatever private website or whatever it is. Some kind of bullshit like somebody had suggested, some other YouTuber had answered the question of what you would change in the world if you could change one thing or something. His argument was to eliminate sentience, the capacity to suffer, to be tortured. And the idiot said something along the lines of, then we would just toil for nothing, and we wouldn't get our little reward feelings. And it's like, we wouldn't be toiling in the first place because there'd be nothing obnoxious, because we wouldn't be feeling anything like boredom or tedium, or we wouldn't feel like we were working. Your computer doesn't feel like it's working. It's not sitting there saying, "Oh, I'm doing all this drudgery and I don't get any cookies." It's not doing that kind of crap. And so it's just basically somebody saying, yes, let's keep the torture and just put our little chocolate coating on it and call it a good meal. And that's trivial, and it's just stupid. And saying, how can people be this dumb? But they surprise me every day. There's a new level of belligerent ignorance. That's what I'm calling it now. Or people aren't just stupid; they're like aggressively stupid. Like you can't miss the stupidity. It's so stupid that they'd have no excuse for saying, "Oh no, I'm saying something smart." They have to know they're being stupid. It's so stupid. It's just that stupid. So, like from my perspective, it just seems like all these other perspectives, whether it be the capitalist or the nihilist or the whatever, the greed whores, all this different, they're just stupid, so plainly stupid. How could anybody be even part of that cult? It's so stupid. You almost have more respect for the people waiting for the UFOs to come down. Their ideologies are so stupid. I've made all the kind of arguments, the whole Frankenstein argument, it's just so stupid for somebody to sit there and defend somebody waking the dead, pretending they know what's best for somebody else, and pretending they're competent to control the creation process and not make any mistakes and all that. I mean, you got to be an idiot to think you're up to the job. Oh, I'm going to make human beings. Yeah, I'm sure I could do a great job. Where would you get that assurance from? How would you possibly think that's, how did your ego get so inflated, that you think you're this brilliant baker of human beings? So I mean, I don't want to make all those arguments. I'm just saying that, they've already been made. But they're just kind of obvious. So I'm running into this with the physics arguments, because you make some kind of simple argument like push is a real simple thing, push, and pull is a very complex thing, and that if you really think about it, it's very hard to do a pull or to come up with a pull that doesn't involve a reverse push, where you're really not pulling, you're pushing, from the other side. And this just rolls into an argument about the whole how you start your overview of a subject, with this dissection of the fundamental problems and the solutions, what hasn't been answered, and that kind of thing. What kind of principles, what kind of things can you know about it? Axioms, truths, and the starting point. So the other subject that came up in a little brief exchange where I was getting actually told I can't participate in a physics discussion room by dissidents, right? So these are the dissident community, and I can't play with them because I'm not respectful enough of them. I don't think they're all brilliant, and therefore I'm not allowed to play. I really didn't do anything wrong or inappropriate in any way except express my honest opinions, and you're not allowed to do that as a dissident, which is just hilarious. So anyway, one of the wackos, some of them are complete wackos, a creationist nut who's he disagrees with conventional physics because he wants to make it religious. God done it. Was talking about the subject of the hard problem, why are we conscious? And, the simplest scientific answer is, consistent with evolution, is because it works. It makes organisms that can interact with the environment in very sophisticated, complex ways, that can have theme, an overall priorities. Priorities of the personal welfare, the community welfare. Lots of different things can be taken care of. Very complex behavior, and they can learn. The reward and punishment works. Lots of things. So that's really the obvious answer. The simplest fact, you say, the first fact of consciousness is it works. It makes organisms that are very adaptive and yet very sophisticated, complex in their behavior. And so that's, it's sort of an undeniable truth, and you just can't get it. So anything you build of a theory of consciousness has to include the fact that, its primary reason why it exists is because it works. And just like claws and teeth work, just like eyeballs work, a nose, all the all the senses we have, they all work. That's why they exist. They create advantage, tools. And consciousness is essentially just a tool to make organisms more adaptive and to more subtle in their interactions, more sophisticated, more exact, more precise, more perfect to the circumstance. Now, I'm not saying they're perfect. I'm just saying more. Less imperfect, less error prone, if you want to say it that way. Less sledgehammer, more scalpel kind of idea. Or less butcher knife, scalpel, to keep the analogy consistent. And then you can go deeper into the subject and talk about the nature of consciousness and the fact that you might be able to deduce that it's just an illusion in our brain, that there's no real consciousness, there's no space of consciousness, there's no consciousness dimension. It's just an illusion, and our brain creates. It creates a feedback mechanism where it lies to itself and convinces itself that these things it has, these feelings, are undeniable as value statements, bad and good, and that's what they are. They're positive and negative, yet they're not real voltage kind of thing. Real in the sense that can't just pluck them out of the system and say there it is. Just like our aliveness is sort of an illusion. We're made of living things. All of our cells are alive. Okay, but technically we're a community of living things. We're not really alive. My neurons are alive, the individual living cells. But is my brain alive? My brain is a network of those cells. It's not really a living thing, in a sense. It's made of living things. But that just points out how our words, the semantics of our vernacular is still not a very good tool. It's not very exact. That we have stupid things like this where we call a single cell a living thing, and then a group of single cells a living thing. It's not a very useful. It's not exact enough. But and so the word illusion, even you could say, well, what does illusion mean? Well, illusion just means a kind of deception. It doesn't mean that the thing isn't actually doing something. It just means that we think it's one thing when it's another thing, something like that. But it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It actually happens. The illusion of pulling a bird out of somebody's sleeve. Yes, it looks like the bird come from nowhere, but we know it came from the sleeve. But the illusion still looks like it didn't. It still looks like it's a real trick. I'm still fooled, in a sense, even when I know it's a trick. So there's lots of times when tricks are so good that it doesn't matter that it's a trick, because it's always going to be hard to see the trick. Something like that. So, they were testing their little fire trucks down at the pond. It's just, all this equipment, it's just, way too much money. Then they dropped something into the pond and had to spend a half an hour trying to fish it out. Anyway, world. What a world, what a world, what a world. I'm melting. It's hot here. So you can go deeper into the subject and try to get to the nature of what consciousness is. But it's just brain states. It's just neurons in certain arrangements. And that arrangement creates something that seems like an entity. I'm a thing sitting in a theater. and I'm watching a life. I'm seeing a physical thing happening in front of me. I'm seeing stuff. I'm sensing it. My chair vibrates. Stuff is happening. But I'm not really controlling any of that. I'm just watching myself just interact as the stuff happens. I don't really think about things, quote unquote, in any conscious way. So my consciousness doesn't do the thinking. My subconscious is doing all of this. It's making this video. My subconscious is making the video. I'm not doing it. It sounds stupid. Oh yeah, I'm not making this video. Well, in a sense, I'm not. Okay, the part that is now in the present, perceiving, I'm not making the video. The video's running from some other part. I mean, I'm looking at turtle. I'm not even paying attention to the I'm just watching me be me as if I'm not me. And but that's part of the illusion of this consciousness, right? It gives us this perception that no, I'm doing it, except I don't really touch anything, or I don't, it's like I made the potato chip, but I didn't, I never saw a potato chip, I never touched one, I never put one in a bag, but somehow I know I made it. Somehow I'm feeling like it's me making the video, but I know it's not me. I mean, so what do I have to do with it? I'm not saying any of this crap. I mean, I didn't get inspected, I didn't edit it, I didn't do anything. It's just flying out of me somehow as a reflex. So that's another word you'd have to throw in there, is that consciousness is just an extension of this knee-jerk thing, this idea of a reflex, that a stimulus from the environment pokes an organism and the organism has a response. And that's what we're sort of doing. And half of us is responding with words and vocabulary and philosophy and whatever subconscious arrangement of sentences and vocabulary and gestures and bullshit. And the other part of us is reacting in, I don't feel very good. I'm tired. I have a headache. The physical part, the sensate part, the ouch part. And that's all there really is. There's just and the reason why it exists is because that ouch part, the part that can feel good and feel bad, more precisely can feel bad or worse, if you want to be exact about it. That part of us is the part that is creating the value statements that are programming the words and the vocabulary. I know Republicans are bad, because I understand through sensations and understanding through look at what they're doing to those. They're torturing people, and they're hurting people, and they're stealing from people, and they're overworking people, and they're just so greedy, and they're so lazy, and they're so sucky. And you just see the harm, and you can feel that empathy, and you feel, and so that's how the value is impressed upon my philosophy, is through a kind of sensing it, feeling their pain, and also recognizing my own, in the sense of, oh yeah, I was abused by those inherited welfares. These people who think they know what they're doing and think they're better than you, and all they did is inherit a pile of money. The fucking cunts. That's, so and this is the way you can dissect any subject. So as I was talking about the push versus pull thing, it's just a rational argument that if you're gonna start thinking about what the universe is, well, it's it seems kind of sensible to say it's probably pushy. It's not really pulley, it's pushy. So when you see something move, look for the thing that's pushing, because that's probably where you'll find the cause. The cause will be in a push somewhere. The cause won't be in a pull somewhere. that kind of simple argument, and then you can start rolling your snowball and start building a logical mechanism. But nobody does that. Instead they do this end game thing where they say, I'm too special not to have a God that made me, and so there must be a God. Or so my people inherited it, my mommy inherited it, and she was a fine person, so inheriting is fine, or some kind of crap like that. So they draw the conclusion without recognizing any of the, without building the snowball, without rolling it carefully. They just create a space and say fill it with any kind of propaganda or bullshit. So that's how science ends up saying it wants this space filled, and so it just fills it with, bent space and virtual particles and dark matter and gravitational waves, and they just keeps filling it with bullshit. Neutrinos, paninos, dizinos, and it's just because it's forcing things to look like what they want it to look like, instead of starting with how does it work and what does it do and what is its fundamental nature. What are its real properties versus what are the properties I wish it had. And so that's sort of like you can get into the free will arguments and everything else. People want our brain to be something it's not. It's just a computing device. It's just a reflexive mechanism, and how you reflexively react is completely dependent on your life experience, fundamentally. I mean, there's a little bit of genetics involved, in the sense you can be paranoid genetically, and you can be hypersensitive, and you can be lots of little things that'll make you more reactionary. But generally speaking, you're going to be a programmed machine, and hardware makes a difference even in a computer. So yeah, better hardware is good, but you're just going to be programmed, and that's all we are. But it's another thing where you could just say, again, with the vocabulary breaking down this word free, people don't even understand there's no free by itself. Free only means something when you're saying free from the cage, free from work, free from burden, free from cancer, free from... You have to be free from something. There's no free, absolutely. There's no free, there just isn't. So it's like saying you want to be free from... I can behave free from logic, or I can behave free from reason, or I can be free from cause and effect, or free from... You can't be free from any of those things. You're bound by them. As I pointed out, once you know 2 + 2 = 4, you just can't do, in any honest way, 2 + 2 = 3, or 2 + 2 = 44. You can't do that. You just can't. You're not free to anymore. You're not free to get the answer wrong because you know the right answer. So, and intelligence does the same thing to you. It confines how silly you can be, how stupid. Obviously. It destroys your ignorance. It makes it go away. You can't make the dumb errors anymore. You can't see stupid things as valid things. Just it binds you, it constrains you. And so here they think they want to have a free will. Well, a free will would imply a stupid will, because frankly the only good will is a smart will, a well-informed will, a will that understands what it's doing, how to drive. You want a competent pilot, not an incompetent one. You don't want a pilot free to crash the plane, do you? So it's just a silly... It's not, it's so poor a starting point, even from the point of view of the vocabulary and understanding the limitation of the vocabulary and the words we're using, and people aren't even recognizing that they can't use the words the way they're using them. they don't apply. So if you want to talk about your will being unrestrained, you don't need to practice to become proficient. You know, you don't need to do exercise, and you don't need to do this. You know, you're free from any obligation to learn how to do something. You just can do it freely. You know, do you believe that? Then you're psychotic. You really are. I mean, that's psychotically stupid if you think that's the way the world works. So it doesn't work that way. You have to be programmed to do a programmed task, a task that requires good programming, knowledge, and organization, and a good model, and all of that crap. So that's, I think that I've tied these three things together, or at least two things together. And so the task is, in this cult war, is trying to convince these imbeciles to join your club, and you want them to do it because for a good reason, not because they're imbeciles and you're going to fool them with a lie or some propaganda or some deception. You're not going to try to be their friend first and then just drag them along. Get them to love the message because they love the messenger. You know, that's really not the way we want it to happen, is it? But certainly that's the way the world works. People gravitate to personalities, and they start accepting the persona and even the values and the beliefs of the persona merely because they like the person. They like the character. And so whatever the character says, they'll make rationalizations and excuses to say that's a good idea or that's smart, when they can kind of understand, nah, it's not too smart. Wife beating isn't a good idea or something like that. So we're in this battle to persuade people to not be assholes, you know, not to be idiots, and you know, and I would argue is that it really should be this obvious, where, you know, the arguments are as simple as this push argument. I think I should really be able to convince anybody on earth that if you were going to be a wagering person, and I gave you a choice to wager on what controls the universe, pushes or pulls, you know, that I could convince them to bet their money on push, because pull really doesn't make any fucking sense. You know, you just can't make one. You can't pull. You know, you can't do it. I can't make a pull that doesn't push. So yeah, so you're saying, yeah, I should be able to convince them of that. Now that's only one little piece, okay, you're granted, but it's like a theory of evolution or something. You have to build it up. You say first you do some geology stuff, you know, like you point out how the Galapagos Islands are a chain of islands been formed over time, and that they're different ages, and that's why they're drifting from each other. They're moving on their continental plate thingy, and so as the islands are made, they move apart, and they have different ages. And so you do some geology stuff, and you talk maybe about the oil in the ground or different other stuff, and time, how long it takes for the oil of coal to turn into the oil, and the compression and the heat. Do some chemistry, and then you get into the, you know, the biology and the fossils, and then the DNA. So yeah, there's lots of bits of this evidence, but I just mean you're starting with it. So like the consciousness problem, the first answer is it works. Another point to make is that biology or evolution isn't a smart programmer. It doesn't know in advance what it's trying to do. It doesn't have objectives, so it can't synthesize value making without really making value. See, it doesn't know that it could write a computer program A that makes hard rules. You know, that says if you break my skin, that's not a good thing. And if you do this, so it can make a bunch of rules. And so I would never need to feel an actual misery. It would just have a set of rules. But see, it can't do that. It doesn't know how to create program A and program B and program C and integrate them. It's a biological mechanism that had to grow into it. And so it made the real thing instead. So instead of making a fake suffering, okay, that we would, I'll have some fake suffering and react to it, like, oh, that's bad, you know, the prime directive has been violated, you know, and that the other programs are obedient to the suffering program. They all will obey it, you know, hard. You know, it wins. You know, the horny, hungry program wins. Generally speaking. But you can argue that, yes, the biological mechanism doesn't have the advantages of a computer scientist. It can't know the end and then build the structure that produces the end product. It did it incrementally. And so all it fell on was it created the illusion of ouch. An organism at some point through evolution went, ow, or ugh. It didn't like something. Okay, it was unpleasant. And now reward and punishment is opened as a learning mechanism. Now it can learn to avoid something merely because it remembers bad, the association. So it has that sensitivity. So now it becomes capable of protecting its skin and protecting all kinds of things, protecting its young and protecting all kinds of things based on feelings. Good feelings and bad feelings. Feelings that attract it and feelings that repel it. Feelings of hungry and feelings of fear. All of that becomes possible. But it's because it's a biological evolving machine, not a machine you build from a blueprint. It's something you build one mistake at a time through evolution. So it's not going to be the most efficient way to build it. It's going to be sloppy, and that's why we're stuck with having a real sentience, you know, a sentience that actually creates good and bad experiences as real experiences. So and then you can just keep building onto this conversation until you get some bigger picture of that, you know, what consciousness is, its role as a tool, the fact that it has elements that you can't expect to be perfect because it was built by an idiot, you know, by accident, you know, not without intention. It just happened to be a good tool. Once they created that ouch, it was a really good way to manipulate people. Just like having slaves is very convenient if you don't know that it's wrong, right? Having slaves is great if there wasn't a moral issue of creating all that harm, you know. And the biology just didn't know that. Biology wasn't smart enough to know, don't enslave us to torture. Don't put that bit in our mouth and harass us through a life by threatening us with disease and death and failure and humiliation. I mean, really, life just pushes you with a bunch of negatives. It doesn't push you. It doesn't pull you with heaven. It really does push you with hell. So now I've made those two subjects related, physics and you know, the nature of our existence. It's all pushy, okay? The physics is pushy, and the structure of our biology has taken advantage of the fact that you can harass us, whip us, push us in directions, and we'll be very happy to just get the whip removed, the whip of poverty, the whip of cancer, the whip of some. Remove it and we will be happy. You know, and we're grateful for a condition that isn't really positive. It's just less negative. We're drowning in shallower quicksand. and that's so nice and feels so good. to know there's a bottom. I can bounce off of it. Maybe stay alive a couple more days. You know, keep my nose above the, the termination line. So yeah, it's all quite. Yeah. So, but this is what we have to do, right? This is the argument. You have to try to appeal to people's. They somewhere inside, they all got to have some kind of logical device. I mean, I know it seems impossible to think that some creationist loopy-loo Muslim kooker has any functioning brain at all to buy that whole preposterous, nonsensical fairy tale. But there's something in there that they can do. They can learn. They can learn how to drive a car, almost, kind of. So they can learn how to drink water. That's, you know, maybe they can learn some things. Dumb Muslims. So you know, there's hope for just being able to make this argument and say, look, I can explain this drinking water to you. You know, it's a good thing. You drink the water and it hydrates you and cleans your body of all kinds of pollutants and stuff. Good for you. You know, and that's all we can do is try to make this point that, you know, it's good for the consciousness not to squander it, not to make Frankensteins, not to have people tormented and harassed and feeling bad. Torturing people is bad, okay? I mean, that shouldn't be too hard, right? I mean, okay, people don't get the drugs are bad, okay, thing. Okay, even though logically I think most people should be able to understand it. Well, no drugs would be better, okay? You know, it'd be kind of better if you don't need to take a pill to get your dick up or something. So yeah, we always can say that, well, it'd be better if you didn't have to do that to get through your life, right? Be better. Okay. And it's better not to torture. And, you know, maybe when they get a little smarter, they'll realize it's not just better, it's necessary. Because if you torture, you fail. That's just facts. You fail. Your life is garbage. You've taken all the positive value that might have existed and ruined it, spoiled it, because you left some dead people, you know, with your tire treads on them, or animals. Just a fact. This is not a complicated fact, right? I mean, if you explain to people that, you know, you driving to the store has a certain value. Yes, you go to the store and you buy your yummy chocolate, and that's good that you get your yummy chocolate. But you should be able to convince them, if to get to the store you end up running over somebody's kid, you know, just leaving a little bloody kid on the road, then it wouldn't be worth, your chocolate bar wouldn't be worth it anymore, would it? You'd understand that that's a negative value equation, that your net sum is something less than zero. You have failed to be above, you know, in the black. You're in debt, like Trump. Yeah, you lose more money than you make. That means failure. But see, people don't even understand that. It's just so amazingly upside down, the world. Amazing stupidity. Because look, this little stuff I've even said in this video, these little kernels should be able to seep into people's head, and they should say, "Oh yeah, well, yeah, I got some of those questions wrong. You know, if you would have asked me before the video, I would have got the wrong answers." You know, they're really that stupid. You know, they think inheriting is earning. You know, they think torture, as long as it's somebody else, isn't anything they have to account for, even though they caused it. You know, it's really just so fucking stupid. And, you know, they can't seem to understand that, you know, throwing something is a lot easier than unthrowing it. Unthrow! That would be pull. Unthrow! This doesn't work. So this really shouldn't be that difficult. You should be able to get to these people with a little bit of logic, a little, you know, just you know, it's not this. All this is not that complicated to see the world as it is. To understand that all this pretty green stuff. This is pus. The world is just pus covered. It's covered in squander and waste. It's filthy with it. It's a junk fucking yard, full of maggots. And yes, it's pretty maggots. But really, if maggots were pretty, you'd say maggots are great? You're smarter than that, right? If maggots were incredibly cute, you would still know it. Hey, it's a maggot, for fuck's sake. It's eating the dead. It's gross. It's making that putrid smell. Well, the bacteria are. The bacteria and the maggots. The maggot shit. I mean, come on. You wouldn't be fooled because it's cute. Cockroaches were cute. You'd say, fine, I'll live with them. Come on. You know better than that. Alright, it's probably enough. Oh, I don't like the way this stretched my images. I'm much taller than that. No, that's gotta go. This is no right setting here. Yeah, stretched is not good enough. Guess I'll do this stupid scale thing. Zoomed is stupid. Yeah, see, this is no good either. Scaled is no good. Zoomed is too in the thing, and then centered is too frickin'. I wonder what none is. Well, none is probably no image, right? Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Oh, the gray thing. Okay. Alright, we'll go with zoomed. Fuck it for now. At least the proportions are more correct. Alright, I don't know if I need to drag this out any further, like making whole arguments or everything. I mean, I could extend the physics argument beyond the push and explain a little bit deeper and a little deeper how they have everything all wrong because they never got the push-pull thing right. You know, it just wasn't that complicated, but they fucked it up right at the start. And, you know, you fuck it up right at the start when you start believing in a God and not following the evidence. You look at the evidence. There's no, when you're born into the world, unless somebody suggests God to you, it's not going to occur to you. You know, it just really isn't. And there's certainly no evidence of the God. If you looked around trying to say where I come from, you're going to start seeing the similarity between you and the great apes. And then you're going to start seeing that, you know, I can raise flowers and I can decide which ones cross. And then I can make a new flower that's different than the two parents, and you know, combination. And then you can kind of understand, oh yeah, well, why couldn't organisms do that in nature? Why couldn't there be something called natural selection? And you're going to realize that's the truth. You know, there was a point in our history where us and that snapping turtle, we have a common grandmother, so to speak. You know, believe it or not. But we do. We have a common grandmother thingy. You know, great, way back. Fact. And then, over time, its eyes have evolved differently than ours. They've improved in certain ways, and ours have improved in certain ways and changed and to maximize their function. But clearly now we can't exchange DNA. You know, now we can't. The improvements he made to his eyes, you know, as through evolution, and the improvements we've made to our eyes through evolution, unfortunately, we can't combine those. See, so that's one of the imperfections of evolution, is that it can create all of these really great tools in these branches, but it has no way to recombine them. So they can have a common ancestor, but they can't have a common future person. And that's a real failure of evolution, is the inability to take the best of different organisms and make the mega, no, orgy. Yeah. Alright, so anyway, so yeah, I'll cut you a break and not drone on and on. I think I did what I had to do. I just wanted to wrap up a few thoughts, and I think I did that, so we'll call it a video. I'm almost tired. Just a minute. I'm tired. Yeah, 44 minutes, right? That's plenty. Plenty. 45. Make an even 45. That's a good number. Not an hour. You know. Okay. Sorry if I wasn't in the frame. I did move around a bit. And I wasn't watching the, didn't have this thing visible. So anyway, so till it be the next time and such. Happy trails and whatnot. More stuff to come. I just haven't, I'm working on so many things. Just a lot of distractions. So I am working on you people, so to speak. It's just not obvious that I'm working on it. But I'm working on it. Sort of. I mean, I got this couple of things written down. I mean, I'm working on it a little bit. I'll work on it harder. Does that mean something when you sneeze after you say I promise? Yeah, it might mean fuck you, I didn't really promise. But anyway, till next time and such, enough of this babbling. I suppose if I moved this into here, that would be more symmetrical. Sorry. Yeah, it's probably how I should do the video. Yeah, I like that. It's sort of nice. Yeah, maybe next time. But next time I'll probably have some newer pictures. You know, gotta upload some pictures and whatnot. But anyway, till next time, and the such, and so forth and whatnot. And thank you. There's a few of you who are humans. You know, so when I say I just hate humans, I'm saying I hate 99% of humans. You know, 1 out of 100 humans, maybe 1 out of 500. I don't know. Yeah, you're beautiful. You really are. You're beautiful. But the rest of them, fuck. Maggot. You know, ugly maggots. So anyway, until next time.